Meadows, welcome to Felixstowe Matters. Now, what do you know about Peru? Well, I think we all know that Paddington Bear comes from darkest Peru. Sweet little chap. Anything else that's pleasant? Well, those people who perform in city centres. Well, we've even had them in Felixstowe on those beautiful instruments, colourful costumes, those things rather like panpipes. So that's a bit about Peru, but where is it exactly? Well, I've done my homework and it's bordering Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil and Bolivia. But my studio guest today will be off to Peru in 3 or 4 weeks' time with 2 of her friends, and collectively they call themselves the Travelling Grandmothers, or Travelling Grandmas. My guest this morning is Madonna. It's an honour. Thank you very much for coming in.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me, Bob.
Now then, it's a pleasure to have you, and Peru, a long, long way from Felixstowe, so what's going on?
Well, we were going to have an adventure, so we thought, why not have one a long way away? We can do something exciting and unknown, really, outside our normal comfort zones.
Absolutely.
And an interesting place, as I understand it.
Yes.
Very colourful, very bright. But with a lot of problems. I think the street children that we're hoping to go and help in a project out there have a very tough life, I think. A lot of them don't have parents.
Just the very word street children makes one think of perhaps crime, drugs, this sort of thing.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of children running wild out there who aren't helped by the project, who are into a lot of crime, prostitution, drugs, enormous amounts of trouble, begging, thieving, just to stay alive. I think these children are very disadvantaged.
These children range from what sort of age?
I think they start quite young.
Sleeping rough at 2 and 3 years old?
Possibly, maybe with older siblings. To try and maybe they try and keep families together. It's very difficult. We haven't got any concrete information about the actual project we're going to yet, but we hope to get plenty of information before we go. Absolutely. And know a bit more about what to expect. But you hear some scary stories about street children, about face cutters and this sort of thing that goes on. So it could be pretty scary, but I think we'll be well looked after because we're going with a reputable outfit from the UK. So we're hopefully going to have a good time, but do some good while we're there and make a bit of difference.
And there are 3 of you, so tell us about that.
2 friends and I, both ladies of a certain age.
Yes.
I'm the oldest.
Beautifully put.
Yes, it was Heather's idea. Heather McRoberts is a friend of mine. She lives in Hadley and she's a nurse. And a long while ago she said she'd like to go and do some volunteering, possibly in Africa or wherever, just on a short-term basis. And nothing much came of it. And then the beginning of last year, she found a website. She and another colleague found a website about volunteering, local, actually based in Norwich, and made some inquiries. At which point she started recruiting other people to go. She and this guy David that she works with were going to go. And then she asked me if I would like to join in. And I said, no. People like me don't do things like going to Nepal, as it was then.
Yes.
But after a while I couldn't think of any good reasons why not to. So I ended up going and I really loved it. I really had a good time. So having done Asia, having been to Nepal for 2 weeks, we've done Asia now. So we're going to do South America this year. Yes. And we picked several projects, but the one we finished up looking at was this one in Cusco, in Peru. Yes. And that's where we're going.
So who knows, you could work your way through all the continents one by one.
I think that's Heather's plan, yes.
A bit of luck.
The other person is Pam, who is also a nurse, and she came when Heather's friend David actually dropped out quite early on. And Pam came on board instead. And she's also
your name changed. You were going to be H2D, I believe.
We were going to be H2D because Heather and Donna, and then D for David. But then David dropped out, by which time we'd already got a bank account called H2D. So we have kept the name. Yes. But Pam is occasionally referred to as Daphne, just to make the numbers right.
And when did the Travelling Grandmothers or Grandmas?
Well, that was after we'd been to Nepal, because when we got there were these 16 children in this children's home we were staying in. And of course they didn't know our names when we first got there, and they're English Western names, not easy for a Nepali child to say. Yes. So they called us all Grandma. Oh. And these wonderful children who used to come out every day, having had their meal, would go and wash up their plate and cup and come through and say thank you to everybody who'd been involved, the house mother and the other volunteers. but they didn't know our names, so they were saying "Thank you, Grandma" 3 times each child as it went through the dining room.
Obviously,
So we ended up being
extraordinarily polite and well brought up.
very, very polite, very, very intelligent, excellent English. They all went to school. They all came home and did their homework. Brilliant, really.
Have you given us
surprisingly
their age range?
They were 8 to 16. There were 6 boys in this place we went to, and 10 girls.
And even the younger ones had a command of English?
Yes, even the younger ones. They talked to us in English all the time. We know, apart from saying "Danya Bats," which is thank you, we knew no Nepalese.
Did you manage to get beyond Danya Bats?
Not really, no. Not very far.
You had far too many important things to think about.
We didn't, laziness if you like, we didn't need to, because the children all were happy and wanted to speak English to us. They spoke Nepalese between themselves, but they all spoke excellent English to us, so why would we need to? We did try a little bit, but very little.
Just coming back briefly to the grandma's idea, are you sort of flying a flag for the modern grandma, because it's a very different image, you three, than what we traditionally associate with a grandmother?
I don't think we set out to fly any flags, but we were a bit of a phenomenon when we got out to Nepal, because, they're nice, lovely little brown people, and we're big white aliens. And
we are much bigger than them.
We are. They are small. Yes, they are small, lovely little brown people.
Including the menfolk, or did you not see them?
Mostly. Yeah, mostly fairly. You didn't see many 6-footers. We didn't see very many tall people. There was one of the boys, the oldest boy was very tall, but I think that's the only person I ever saw that was taller than me. And I've lost my thread.
Well, let's talk about life in the orphanage.
Let's do that.
Obviously, the children were all in different circumstances, but presumably all without either parent.
I'm not sure. I think some of them had a parent, at least one. They were disadvantaged rather than orphans, I think we came to realise. Family circumstances had decreed that the parents, for whatever reason, whether illness, unemployment, poverty, alcoholism, various reasons, couldn't look after their children. Not necessarily forevermore, but for the time being.
Oh, so they could be returned?
They could. I think there was family contact in some cases, so they could have been returned.
You saw parents that came?
No, we were aware of parents phoning, but we didn't actually see any. But the children talked about their parents, some of them. Not all of them, but some of them. There was one set of sisters who were definitely... And their mother was the house mother in the place, so she had a home for her and her children. And she was a widow, and she'd then come into the house to look after it, keep it. She dug the garden, she cooked the meals, she looked after the children, she did their hair in the morning, and she washed their clothes, and amazing lady. Well, that all sounds very delightful, but did you have to put aside any of our scrupulously hygienic Western ways? Just a bit.
Tell us more.
It was very basic. It was quite grubby, the house, but it was looked after. The children were happy. That was the important thing. But we had the same meal every day, which was curried vegetables and rice, and occasionally you might get chips.
Was it palatable?
It wasn't unpalatable. It just got to be a bit tedious, really.
I should think so.
Same thing. But they eat for fuel. They don't eat for enjoyment like we did. They don't look forward to a nice steak or something. It was all vegetarian anyway.
And watch silly TV cookery programmes with food piled up on a plate. No, it's just getting it in. Getting
it in. That's right. It's the same. And this wasn't just the children in the orphanage. This was the people that we met in Kathmandu when we first got there, in the family that we stayed with. They were having the same meal twice a day as well. It wasn't anything to do with status or money. It seemed to be what happened.
Did the grandmas join in with the cooking?
And the grandmas... We didn't do very much cooking. We did some preparation. Right. It was a tiny little kitchen where Besanti, who's the house mother, used to do all the cooking in there, and she'd have this great big vat of rice and another big vat of vegetables, and occasionally they kept chickens, so occasionally she'd hard boil some eggs.
Yes.
And but we cleared up and washed up and cleaned the kitchen, got rid of the cockroaches one day.
And the washing up was all done to scrupulous standards?
Not what you might call scrupulous by our standards.
Was it hot or cold water?
Cold water, a very grubby little sink on the floor. But each child carried through their plate, and they ate with their fingers, so there were no implements to wash. So there was one plate, one cup. Per child.
And you three.
And us. Yes, we all did our own, or, we helped each other, but mostly the children always took this is when this Thank You Grandma came in. The children took their plates and their cup to this tap, more or less in the wall, rinsed them, put them back on the shelf, and then came back out through and said thank you to everybody. So, no, it wasn't Western standards, it wasn't hot water, there was no detergent. No, but they all seemed pretty healthy and we didn't come to any harm.
Well, I was about to ask you, I would have immediately assumed from that there'd be some cases of Nepalese tummy.
Not anything, not a thing. No, there was one slight tummy problem one day for one of us, which came and went. The rest of us had no problems at all. Surprisingly, really.
You had various jabs, but what were they for?
We'd had typhoid and we'd taken malaria tablets.
Yeah.
Nothing huge. Not nothing heavy duty. We could have had Japanese encephalitis jabs, but they were 100 and something pounds a throw, so we thought and rabies as well.
You thought you'd risk it.
We thought we'd risk it. So.
And then, day by day, you've got quite a lot of time there. How did you spend the time, apart from washing up and eating?
We used to clear up and clean up after the meals. We'd sweep the floors and clean the tables and do everything like that. We'd help the children get ready for school. And we'd take them up to the bus stop and wait for the school bus with them, because the home we lived in, called Happy Home, lovely. It looked gorgeous. It looked a lot more lovely outside.
How far from the bus stop?
Oh, 7 or 8 minutes walk. Not that probably, not very far. But they were quite small, some of these children, so we'd always go up to the bus stop with them. A couple of the older ones went on a bike to the school, and the rest of them just got on the bus, same time every morning, off they went. And they went to school every day except Sunday. As far as I know, they didn't have long holidays, but every 3 weeks or so they'd have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off as a sort of long weekend. And one of the weekends while we were there was the long weekend. And while they were there, they had extra days. They used to help out in the garden, do the digging, weeding. It had poured with rain the night before. The night we got there, absolutely tipped. I've never seen rain like it. And in the morning it appeared to have all gone, but of course the ground was softer. So the children got out there and did digging and pulling and planting and sowing and weeding, and helped out Bisanti, who has this huge garden to look after. So,
was there any time to discuss with them what they did at school?
Oh yes, we did. We did help them with their homework. We heard them read.
And how did the work seem compared with what we learn in this country?
I think, difficult to know. I'm not an expert on primary education, but it seemed to be pretty advanced,
well,
I think.
I think so, given that you've said that.
And they were talking about, yes, their English was excellent. They had all their lessons in English at the school they went to, so they were very well versed from a very young age, I think. But they were talking about wanting to be doctors and nurses and things. They had ambitions, they had aspirations. They weren't going to live in a life of poverty all their lives. They were going to get up and get out and find a career, and most of them, I think, were probably more than intelligent enough to be able to do that. So hopefully they will.
We have some pictures which are very kindly brought along, and let's just see if we can hold these up to the camera and give people some idea of what we have. Let's just focus, get that into place.
That's it.
There
yes,
we are, the right way up. And who is that?
That's Heather. We had to do our own washing, of course, and we did it in the outside tap in a sort of bath affair.
So that strange business is where the washing up took place.
Not the washing up. No. That was just the washing.
Washing of clothes.
Washing of clothes.
The washing up was done in a kitchen, in a sink.
In a kitchen, yeah. The kitchen seemed to be almost at the top of the house in Nepal.
But here she is with no detergent.
No, I don't think so. There was a scrubby brush thing, I think.
Just squeezing the clothes through some...
Yeah, there may have been some hard soap that you could use. I think that was the only thing there ever was.
And would that be your clothing there, or
yes.
the children's?
No, ours.
Yours.
We didn't get to wash the children's. I think probably if we got up a bit earlier, we might have done that, but nobody called us to come and help. But there were always lines and lines of washing in the garden, massive big garden, as I say. Right. And 3 or 4 lines of washing practically every day of the children's clothes. Goodness. But they didn't have masses of clothes. They had 2 sets of uniform and then 2 sets of ordinary clothes, and they kept them, everybody had a suitcase under their bed, and that was all they had.
Right. Yes. And here we have a picture of the assembled crowd. Well, not all of them. It's the boys and the grandmas. So let's
that was at the bus stop.
You're going to just tilt that way a little bit and go over there. And that's about right. Now then, in the back row we have, if you can see, Honor?
Yes.
Yes.
Heather in the middle.
Heather in the middle.
Pam on the right.
Honor on the right.
Pam on the right.
Pam on the right and Heather on the left. And the children, do you remember any names at all or not?
There was Sonam, there was Chika, Oh, I can't remember anymore.
Okay, and then there were more girls, I believe,
Yes,
than boys.
10 girls and 6 boys. I think that was just circumstances. I don't think there was any rules or regulations about it. If they'd been on a different ratio, I think they would just have reorganised and reallocated the accommodation.
And what are the nighttime arrangements? All the boys together and all the girls together?
Yes, there were 2 girls' rooms and 1 boys' room, I think. Maybe 3 girls' rooms, I'm not sure. But they were dormitory style. And the house mother slept in with the children.
And here is some rather wonderful activity going on.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, look at that.
We took some sewing needles and thread and fabric and a lot of knitting wool, knitting needles.
Did you have to teach them from scratch, or were they already skilled?
No, they knew about sewing. They grabbed the sewing and made all sorts of exciting,
Presumably
interesting
they
things.
have to repair their own clothing, do they? Or?
I'm not sure about that. I didn't see any evidence of that.
No.
But they took them away and did, there was some binker and some felt, and they went away and did some quite intricate things with a needle and thread.
Right.
But also this knitting, they took to the girls. I don't think the boys were terribly interested, but the girls took to it like a duck to water, and we taught them to knit, and then they knitted themselves long, narrow strips, which they joined together and made headbands for themselves. Straight away. And some of them...
So obviously very quick on the uptake, these kids.
Very, yes, they used to come and, will you start me off? Will you finish it off? Will you come and do this for me or show me that? But yes, very quick on the uptake.
I can see a picture there of a child, the one...
This one, there she is, that's Ranju.
Now, this is when you've taught her to knit, and there she is doing
There she is doing some knitting, yes.
Yes, there we are. Beautiful. And what's this other child? She has a...
This is Sarita. One of the things we took... Yes, Heather knew loads of people who knitted for us, and they knitted these little teddies. And we're doing better now. Yeah. Yes, knitted lots and lots of these little stuffed teddies. So we took them, and every child had one. That was Sarita with hers. And I think she's got her hairband on that we knitted.
Yes, she got a hairband, yeah.
And then there was a lot more than we needed than for the children in the children's home. So we took another bag full to the local village school one day. Oh. And all the children there also had a teddy, a knitted teddy, and they were delighted. Their little faces, something that completely out of their experience, I think, really. These toys just turning up, because they didn't have very much stuff that wasn't, you couldn't eat it, wear it, or use it. They didn't have it.
Did you take anything in the way of sweeties or other things?
We did. Heather took some of these little sweet lollies. They loved those. Mm-hmm. They had one of those every day.
I suppose they weren't really accustomed to sweetness?
Not really. No, I don't think they were. They loved these. And we took a lot of toothpaste. I think, having taken the lollies, we take some toothpaste as well.
They had brushes already?
They had brushes, but we took a load of brushes as well. Right. We took some toys. We took a skipping rope and a little bug watcher thing and some balls. And
did you have to research all these things to know what they would be short of?
No, not at all. We just took potluck, really. We used our loaves, such as they are. And we just packed, half of each of our suitcases was packed full of stuff to take for the children.
Yes, wonderful.
Yeah.
And lastly, the famous meal. I can see something quite nutritious there. There's a boiled egg in there.
Yeah, that was the day that the chickens had obviously been behaving themselves.
So, yes.
Move it to your...
Yes, I just need to move it slightly that way. And there we have it. So, it doesn't look hugely appetising. But
it's not, but there's always plenty of it. It's nutritious, it's filling.
The boiled egg didn't come every meal?
No. Boiled egg was a treat.
It was a treat.
Boiled egg was a treat. I think we only had one boiled egg. Yeah.
In all the time you were there?
I think so, yes. Can't remember having more.
Goodness gracious me. So, to get there, you needed to meet some costs.
We did.
How did you go about that for one Paul?
Well, we were very lucky last year, extremely lucky, because it was the first year we'd done it. People were sort of rather falling over themselves to say, I think because there's an element of, I wouldn't do that, but I'll help you do it.
Yes.
So,
but for the grace of God, go on.
Something like that.
I imagine.
And we were very, very lucky. We were given all sorts of, friends and relations donated money. Somebody gave us loads of coal that we could, I used the coal for my winter fire and put the money into the...
Brilliant.
And things like that. We had quizzes.
Now, you're a quiz mistress.
I'm a quiz person, yes.
Yes.
Very much so.
And that was part of used to, here in our town, in Felixstowe, used to run quizzes at the fire station.
That's right, we did last year.
These were very well attended.
Reasonably well attended. One or two weren't as good as we'd hoped, but enough to bring in a good deal, yes. And we are hoping to have one more quiz this year.
So which parts of the total expense have to be met by you, and which parts are met by the organisation that you go with?
None is met by the organisation. We
None
have
at
to pay
all.
everything. We pay for flights.
Right.
We pay for accommodation while we're there.
Okay.
And when we were in Nepal, it was quite expensive, but obviously it goes towards the children's home to feed the children and keep everything going. It's part of their way of keeping the whole thing viable, really. We have to pay insurance.
Yes.
We had to pay for the malaria tablets that we had.
Injections?
And I don't think we had to pay for the injections. I think they were on the National Health, but certainly the malaria tablets we had.
And then
to
your
pay for.
day-to-day living costs?
Well, we were fed.
You were fed?
We were fed.
So,
And we were transported. We were met at the airport, so that was
Right,
paid for.
that's
But we paid a registration fee for a year that covered us for this sort of thing. So the liaison between original volunteers in the UK and it's called Info Nepal, Orphan Children Nepal, there was all done. And we were told that we would be met at the airport, and we were. We stayed 2 nights in Kathmandu where we were looked after. We were fed. We were given a little bit of Nepal language teaching, and we were taken on one tourist trip to
the little yellow idol? No
little alien.
No.
We didn't see all the Durbar Square and all of the touristy bits of Kathmandu at all.
It's a shame, isn't it? Really, that
It
you
is a
have
bit.
just a
I didn't
moment
want to spend a lot of time
wander
in.
off the track,
Yeah, well, we went to the Buddhist temple, which was fabulous. I mean, we
Yes.
did enjoy that, but that was sort of part of the deal. And then they transported us to the bus. It was a 6-hour bus journey down to the valley through one of the most dangerous roads in the world that was on the television programme.
Oh.
Only it was filmed then during a monsoon, whereas when we went, it was a lovely day, but the sheer drop was the
I haven't
same.
asked you about the weather. So the bus journey, was this in stifling heat or?
No, it was quite comfortable. It wasn't too bad at all. So 6 hours down there. We were met when we got down there by somebody, the driver attached to the home, who looked about 11 and a half. And we couldn't believe that he was our driver, but he was. And he took us off to the home. He took us out from there into the town one day while we were there, and they brought us back to the bus station. We got the bus back at the end. We were met spot on time by somebody in Kathmandu. We went back there for one night, and then we were taken to the airport. So we were very, very well looked after in Nepal by the people who liaised, it's an agency, who liaised with the people in Britain. So we're hoping that it'll be as safe and as secure and as reassuring as that when we get to Cusco, because we couldn't fault them at all.
But of course you were in a place which at least seems civilised and law-abiding. But where you're going now, it won't be quite as, well, certainly won't be as law-abiding from what we understand.
It'll be very different, I think, very different. For a start,
Peru?
it's going to be an urban scenario. We're very rural where we were in Chitwan in the south of Nepal.
So do you know what the circumstances of your accommodation will be?
We just know that there will be accommodation, and it will be, I'm not expecting it to be very plush.
So you could be in private people's houses who just...
I think not. I think it's some sort of a hostel, I think.
Right.
But it's like we went with no expectations when we went to Nepal, and we're doing the same thing again. We really have no idea. It's a leap into the unknown. But we stayed together. We did everything more or less together, and that was our security, really.
Yes.
And
you don't seem terribly worried about the criminality side of this issue.
I cannot think that original volunteers would send us into danger.
No.
Because it wouldn't be in their best interest, because it would then, be very bad publicity for them if one of us ended up in jail.
So they're going to find a spot for you where the children are, or allocate children to you who are...
I think there's something like a soup kitchen is one of the things I've heard about. So maybe it's just that
Yes.
there will be projects going on, taking children for appointments. These aren't, I don't think we're going to be dealing with the kids who are actually living rough all the time. There'll be projects that are available to help as many of these children as we can. But until we get there, we really don't know details.
Now, our soup kitchens take place after dark, after midnight, don't they, on the streets. So are you anticipating it will be something like that?
I can't think we'll be just left alone to do
Yes,
it.
yes.
I cannot think that they would do that because it would put us in danger.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think it would be a lot more controlled than you sort of expect. It certainly was in
Yes.
Nepal.
But it sounds like a little bit of a step into the unknown. You don't have as yet an itinerary or a comprehensive picture of what your work will be.
No, we've booked the flights.
Yeah.
We've established how much the accommodation is going to cost
Mm-hmm.
and how much the insurance is going to cost.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like stepping off a cliff when we went to Nepal.
Yes. Will you be fed again?
Yes, we
part
will
of
pay
the
for
deal?
accommodation, and that will feed us.
And that will feed you.
I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Yes.
And do you know about the food?
No idea. Marmalade sandwiches.
Yes.
No, I don't know. No idea.
Yes.
But it's part of the fun. It's part of the
Yes.
deal that you go and experience something new. So I got quite anxious about the whole thing really before we went to
Yes.
Nepal, and you know, I was talking to my daughter-in-law who did a lot of travelling before she was married, and she said, well, what are you worried about? And I said, well, it's all going to be so different, and you know, how will I cope? And she said, isn't that the point?
Yes. Yes.
And that sort of calmed me down a bit, and I think the same thing applies now.
Yes. Let's go back to raising funds, because something we missed out when we were talking about Nepal was the wonderful knitted items, the sewn together squares,
Mhm.
which made up quilts.
Yes,
Because you've been in the quilting business yourself, so
I've made fabric
it's
quilts.
something
Yes.
you know about.
Mhm.
Have you been doing that again for this trip, or are you going into some other ways of fundraising?
Well, Heather has made a wonderful quilt, which we're hoping that we can auction or raffle or somehow or other raise some money for, possibly when we have the quiz. We
The
haven't got a
last
date.
one raised quite a large amount, didn't
Yes,
it?
but it was slightly different. It was a slightly different scenario. It was very big and very complicated.
£150, something like
250.
250.
Yes,
Wonderful.
but it took me a year to do the second one, and I got rid of it last weekend, so I was quite
Yes.
pleased.
Yeah.
So I haven't had an opportunity to do very
Yes.
much with the knitted
Yes.
squares. Hopefully I will. And I don't think our fundraising efforts are actually going to finish when we go to Peru, because we will be out of pocket, and none of us can actually afford to be very much out of pocket.
No.
And B, that we've got a lot of squares
Yes.
that people donated to us, so we will be making them up and using that some way or another to raise some more money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, there was a musical evening in
We had a lovely
Hintlesham.
musical evening in Hintlesham, yes.
Hintlesham because
Because Heather lives in Hadley, and it was a local place to her. And also some of the people who'd volunteered to come and perform for us at that musical evening, including yourself. A lot of the artists came from that way. They worked with Pam largely, and it was over in that neck of the woods. So that's why we chose Hintlesham, really.
and now we have a proposal to do it all again in Felixstowe.
That's the plan.
Yes. We did have a date which was going to be in a couple of days' time,
This Saturday,
but
yes.
don't think that's going to be the case now.
It looks like we might have to postpone it.
Yes, but we'll be looking for a new date. It might necessitate a new venue as well. But
I think it might. I think maybe
remains to be seen in the next
we'd
day or two.
overreached ourselves in the
yeah, possibly.
size. But
But we will do it. We do have all the artists on standby,
yes,
so it will be, we can promise, a wonderful evening.
hopefully,
And,
yeah.
well worth
Looking
coming to.
forward
So
to-
for
yeah.
Felixstowe people watching on Felixstowe TV, we can say to them that please come.
Yeah,
And
look out for the posters.
it will need to be, to be reposted.
Mhm.
It was in the local newspaper as being in a couple of days' time from where we sit now, but in actual fact that's not the case, but we will re-announce all this
We will.
and aim for 2 or 3 weeks' time.
Yes.
You need to try to do it before you go, so the money is in your hands rather
It would
than
be better, but-
retrospectively.
Yes, yes. And we're also hoping to fix up a quiz before we go, but again, because the fire station isn't in use anymore, I
So
haven't
we
been able
don't
to...
have a date on the quiz.
No, I tried to ring this morning to see if I could get somewhere in Felixstowe, and I can't raise the person who does the booking, so...
Do you have an easy way of contacting your regular quizzers? Because you've got regular customers,
Yes,
haven't you?
hopefully, yes, hopefully.
Mm.
Yes, we can approach a few people who will approach a few more people who will then go on and do that.
So what is your date of departure? It's any
25th of October,
25th.
6 weeks today, Bob.
6
It's a bit scary, isn't it?
Well, it is. But you're ready.
It'll come and go.
You're all,
My head is ready, yes.
yes.
Like the rest of me.
Yes. And of course, lots of light clothing.
Hopefully, again, we've got to find out a bit more detail
Yes.
about what but I think it'll be warm.
And perhaps a different array of gifts this time.
Yes, I think if we're going to take something, we need to find out a bit more. Or it might be better. We did hear yesterday of a volunteer who'd been there and had donated some money so some children there could. That seemed to me like a really good idea, because better to give them something that we know they want rather than take some stuff on spec which may or may not be any use to them.
Yes, you always hear these rumours about what people want in different countries, and they're not always right.
No.
Well, all I can say is the very best of luck to you. Like many of your customers, so to speak, have said, rather you than me, I think you're amazingly brave and absolutely tremendous. The travelling grandmas, absolutely wonderful.
Brave or foolish, who knows?
Well, we'll talk about that perhaps here on Felixstowe TV in 2 months' time.
When we come back? Yes, okay, I'd be glad to.
So there we have it. Thank you very much indeed, Honor Dines.
Thank you very much.
There we have the travelling grandmas. This is Felixstowe Television, Felixstowe Matters. We're here 5 days a week because Felixstowe Matters. See you next time.